Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's episode of The Fishing Teacher, and hope everybody's well, and really appreciate you guys checking out today's episode. And guys, today we're going to be talking about catching bass on rising water conditions, because I've got a tournament this weekend at Table Rock Lake, and the lake's come up like 4 or 5 feet over the past week. So I'm going to tell you guys how I approach something like this, because springtime of the year, April, May, there's a lot of high water usually this time of year. So if you ever run into a situation like this, hopefully today's video is going to help you guys out. Also, guys, get started, just a big thank you to everybody that's taken time to hit that subscribe button here to the Fishing Teacher. Got 3 channels, I get them mixed up all the time, but just really appreciate that. And also, guys, anybody interested in booking an on the water lesson with me, you can do that by going to my Facebook page, Randy Blockett Professional Angler, and just shoot me a private message, and I'll get you all the details for that. So really appreciate it. Okay guys, how do you attack rising water on any lake? There's a lot of variables. This is not a simple answer. There's so many different situational conditions that determine what the fish do and how you're going to catch them. It's all over the board. It's not as simple. It's like a lot of people think, okay, the water's coming up, so the fish are going to come up and the fish are going to get in the flooded cover. Now, there is some truth to that, because that does happen. But there's also a lot of extenuating circumstances that keep them from doing that sometimes, or influence how many of those fish move up, with that rising water. So a lot of it has to do, first of all, with how quick the rise is and how much dirty water is coming in. Now I'm assuming, or I'm not assuming, but I'm gearing this video towards springtime fishing and early summer. So we're dealing with water temperatures over 55 degrees for the most part. So when you have a situation like that, you have to pay close attention to the water clarity in relationship to what the water clarity normally is, because that's all relative to how the bite is going to be affected in a negative or positive way. So let's say, for example, if the water visibility where you fish at is normally 3 feet, and you get a bunch of rising water and you lose your visibility and it turns to 6 inches of visibility, that's going to make the fishing tough. That's a pretty radical water clarity change. So a lot of times those fish are going to get turned off. But if you have a little bit more of an incremental slower rise where your water doesn't get really dirty, sometimes the water can come up high and it stays clear based upon part of the lake that you're in and how fast that rise is. But if that water comes up and you don't really lose much of your water visibility, that is an ideal situation to catch fish out of flooded cover. And also with that is the slower the rise, the more fish will move up into flooded cover. If you have a situation like we've got at Table Rock right now, where that lake shot up really fast, a lot of times those fish will not move up into that flooded cover. And if they do, they're little fish. What happens more than not, and this is one of the things I've never really understood about bass fishing, is let's say, for example, your lake level, your lake elevation is 500. Just say, for example, on the lake you're fishing, and the lake comes up 7 or 8 feet and it's 507. A lot of times those bigger fish will stay right there at that 500 level. So they'll be 7 foot deep instead of moving up into shallow cover to get to that 507. In other words, they call that they're relating to the old shoreline. The old shoreline was at 500 when the lake's at 507. And a lot of times fish stay there. They don't move up with that flooded cover. So if you find a situation like that, say for example, I go fishing, I'm going to practice Friday down at Table Rock. Say I go down there and I pull up my flipping stick and I flip trees and bushes all day long and can't catch much or just catch little ones. At that point, I have to back out and throw like a Carolina rig or a football head jig or a crankbait deeper out off the edge of that flooded cover, and a lot of times you can catch some really nice ones doing that. That is a very typical scenario when something like that, when that water comes up really, really fast. But from my perspective, it's like I try to take advantage of it, because throughout the course of a year, we don't get the chance to fish flooded cover much when the lake comes up fast. And I love fishing flooded cover. I love flipping and pitching flooded bushes and flooded trees. So if there's any type of a bite going on in that type of water, that's where I want to be, because I just enjoy fishing like that. So main thing with that, the point of the video is pay close attention, guys, to your water, how fast it's coming up, any type of water clarity changes, and adjust accordingly. And also, when you have a fast rise like that, you really have to determine what the best part of the lake is, because normally the best part of the lake is going to be where your water clarity is a little bit more stable. So given that, a lot of times the best area of a lake is the lower end of the lake or the mid part of a lake when the water comes up fast, because you tend to have a little bit more stability on the water clarity. If you go to the upper reaches, like the upper river arms and the creek arms, a lot of times those areas are going to muddy up real fast. The fish aren't going to bite that well in there. So that's just another consideration to remember. So anyway, guys, hope it helps you guys catch a few, and we'll talk later.